Solving proportions using cross multiplication. A proportion is two ratios set equal to each other. Remember, ratios can be written as fractions and they compare to quantities. To solve a proportion, you are going to cross multiply. What cross multiplying means, if I had the proportion A over B equals C over D. First of all, notice this is a proportion because I have the ratio A over B, or A to B, set equal to the other ratio C over D. So that is the form that a proportion is going to look like. What I mean by cross multiplying is you're going to take the top or the numerator of one of your ratios and you're going to multiply by the denominator in the other. So in this case, if I have A over B equals C over D, I would multiply A times D, and then I'm going to set it equal to the other cross multiplying that I can do, which would be B over B times C. So to cross multiply this proportion, I would have A times D set equal to B times C. If two ratios are proportional, when you cross multiply, you are going to get a true statement, and a true statement can also be called an identity. What that means is you're going to get something like 7 equals 7, or 3 equals 3, or x equals x. Those are all true statements. It's the same thing set equal to itself, so it will always be true. It's called an identity. So in these two examples, we're asked to state if each pair of ratios forms a proportion. In the first example, I'm given 4 to 2, or 4 over 2, and the ratio 20 to 6. What I'm going to do is first set up a proportion, and I'm going to say 4 over 2 equals 20 over 6. We're not quite sure if it does yet, so that equal sign might not be valid. They might not be proportional. And to cross multiply here, I'm going to multiply 4 times 6 and 20 times 2. So I have 4 times 6 equals 2 times 20. Well, 4 times 6 is 24, and 2 times 20 is 40. So 4 over 2 and 20 over 6 are not proportional. In the next example, I'm given 4 over 3 and 16 over 12. There are other ways that we can figure out if these are proportional or not, but we're going to practice with cross multiplying. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a proportion. 4 over 3 equals 16 over 12, and I'm going to cross multiply. When I'm cross multiplying here, I would multiply the 4 times the 12 and set it equal to 3 times 16. Well, 4 times 12 is 48, and 3 times 16 is 48 as well. This is a true statement or an identity. 48 does equal 48. So 4 over 3 and 16 over 12, yes, they are proportional. To solve for a variable, when you cross multiply, you are going to get an equation that you're going to have to solve. So when I have a variable in my proportion, in this case I have 10 over k equals 8 over 4. I'm still going to cross multiply, so I'm still going to do 10 times 4 and set that equal to k times 8. Instead of saying k times 8, I'm going to go ahead and say 8k. Remember, anytime I have a number and a variable written right next to each other, that shows multiplication, and it does not matter the order that you are multiplying two numbers. 8 times k is the same thing as k times 8. I need to go ahead and multiply 10 times 4. 10 times 4 is 40, so I have 40 equals 8k. Now to solve for k, I'm going to use my inverse operations, just like this was a one-step equation, because it is. And I would divide both sides by 8. When I divide both sides by 8, I'm left with k equals 5. In the next example, I have m over 10 equals 10 over 3. When I cross multiply here, I would multiply m times 3 and set it equal to 10 times 10. Go ahead and multiply. 10 times 10 is 100. So I have 3m equals 100. I need to go ahead and get m by itself by dividing by 3 on both sides. When I take 100 and divide it by 3, I'm going to be left with 33.3, and that 3 would actually be repeating. I'm just rounding all of my answers to the nearest tenth, but if you wanted to use bar notation on that, you could do 33.3 with a bar or a line over that 3 to show that it would keep repeating on and on and on forever. In the next example, I'm going to solve for x by cross multiplying 2 times 9 and setting it equal to x times 7. So I have 2 times 9 equals 7x. Well, 2 times 9 is 18. Set it equal to 7x. Solve for x by dividing by 7 on both sides. And the answer to this problem is going to be x equals 2.6. 18 divided by 7 is not 2.6. I believe it's actually 2.57 if I'm correct. That might not be right. But I'm going to go ahead and round my answers to the nearest tenth. So that's where the 0.6 comes from. To solve the proportions 6 over 8 equals 3 over 8, I'm going to cross multiply 6 times 8, set it equal to a times 3. 6 times 8 is 48 equals 3a. Go ahead and divide both sides by 3, and you get 16 equals a, or a equals 16. The next example, when I cross multiply, I'm going to have 4 times x. I'm going to set it equal to 9 times 2. Go ahead and multiply. 9 times 2 is 18, so I have 4x equals 18. To solve for x, I need to divide by 4 on both sides. And when I divide by 4 on both sides, I'm left with x equals 4.5. And the last example, I'm going to cross multiply 7 times 5. And set that equal to 9 times a. Go ahead and multiply. 7 times 5 is 35, so I have 35 equals 9a. To solve for a, I'm going to divide by 9 on both sides, and when I do so, I'm going to get a equals 3.9.